Good evening and welcome to the Late Show with me, Irish Tommy. Thanks for joining me. And a bit of a buzz about us this week, which is good to have. I didn't do a show last week, so didn't get to talk ahead of the Arsenal game, but what a game that was. And then another really good night for us in Europe. And now we're kind of looking forward to the rest of the season, I think, with a little more optimism, which is great. So I will talk about the Arsenal game and obviously our Conference League win as well over Ghent. Quite a bit to discuss. We'll talk about Bournemouth as well, obviously. We've got that game coming up on Sunday. Every game now is in the Premier League and in Europe is massive. So say hi in the comments, give a shout out, say how you're feeling, say how you're feeling. Last night was a hell of a lot of fun. We got Surreal Frames already in the house. How you doing, mate? Good to see you. I did have a happy day today. Apart from, two really good performances on the bounce, two good results on the bounce. I wasn't working today, so I was able to relax today, have a nice, enjoyable day. Went for a nice long drive, took in some scenery here in beautiful Kerry. So yeah, definitely a good day. It's been a good week, hasn't it, for West Ham fans? I'm going to be hopefully expecting Gatesy. He's fashionably late, but he is due to join me hopefully shortly. Maybe Sinead can pop him a message to remind him that he's supposed to be here. But yeah, let me know how you're all feeling about the last couple of games. As you can see, you probably saw from the thumbnail, we've had a lot of talk this season about corners being turned, and I never really felt that way because it was after, say, the win against Everton, wins against Forest at home, teams like that, teams who were kind of in the mud and who were in free fall, and I was never really convinced that those kind of wins, even the Fulham game away, it was 3 points, but it was a really uninspiring performance. So I never really bought into the corner turned talk. Actually, I'm going to pop my old buddy in. Here he is, right on cue. Gatesy, how are you doing, mate? You're muted, mate. You need to unmute yourself. Yeah, can't hear you. Not sure why. Yeah, pop off and come back in, mate. Yeah, I could see the mute on his mic. He was definitely muted. I don't think he could find it. But yeah, we'll get him back in a second and we'll talk all things West Ham with Gatesy. Yeah, and I'll ask him about this corner turn thing as well. But yeah, up until now, I never really believed the whole corner turn thing. I think now for the first time, I'm starting to think, okay, maybe now, because something is different now. We're not talking about just a result, because you can get a good result, you can get a win where the performances are still poor, but these last two games have been different. Let's see if we can hear Gatesy. Gatesy, no, you're still muted, mate. I think you've got a microphone. I can see a mute symbol on your thing there. So I'm not sure. I'll try and mute your mic and then unmute it and see. Yeah, I don't know why I can't hear you there, mate. There's definitely a mute symbol. You see it there where your name is? There's a mute symbol popping up. I don't know if it's the volume on your laptop. Maybe is down. I'm not sure. Yeah, definitely having. Yeah, I can see that mute symbol on it. Yeah, I don't. Oh, you're putting the mute on and off. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, mate. Maybe try and see if you can fiddle about with it and figure it out, mate. The joys of technology. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what's happened there, mate. We should be able to hear him. I'm not sure if we'll be able to get Gatesy back or not, but I don't know what's going on with his mic. But yeah, as I was saying, you can have really good performances, or rather, you can have good results, but the performances are not there. Like the Fulham game, we won that one, but it was ugly. We didn't play well. Kind of shithouse the 1-0 win. It was a very important and very welcome 3 points, but it didn't. Again, it still didn't feel like we turned a corner. Because the performance wasn't there. But I think these last 2 games for me has been very different. Obviously, apart from the start against Arsenal, which was awful, 2-0 down after 10 minutes, you're thinking, oh, here we go, we're going to get absolutely trounced. But the response was excellent. And the performance, was really, really good. That was the first time, to be honest, this entire season where I was actually kind of buzzing after a performance. Obviously not just from the result, because it was a draw. We got a point. It was 2-2. We didn't win the game, but I was far more buzzing with that draw than I was in beating Fulham or after beating Everton, after beating Forest, because the performance was really, really good. And it wasn't just because it was Arsenal. Obviously, that was really nice because the London derby against Arsenal, it's always great to take something off them. But the performance was so encouraging. That was the first time this season where I thought we saw something like the West Ham we were hoping to see this season. And that really encouraged me. But again, I didn't want to read too much into it because it's still a kind of a one-off thing, and you're hoping that we don't just revert to type in the next game. But then, Thursday night came against Ghent. Started off very brightly in that game. Really encouraging start. But then we kind of just went off the boil a little bit. We weren't able to keep that momentum going, and Ghent were able to kind of work their way back into the game a little bit. And took the lead, and he just thought, oh, no, don't do this, please. Please don't do this. We cannot lose at home to this lot. And at half-time, I think we probably were all really, really worried that this was going to be a really tense, difficult night, despite the fact that we'd gotten ourselves back in the game with that Mikel Antonio header from Bowen's cross. It still felt like the performance wasn't really there at that point. But then in the second half, just a completely different team came out and just blitzed them. We could have scored another 3 goals on another night. We missed a couple of sitters. Souček should have buried his chance. Antonio had a really good chance that he didn't bury. We got a penalty in that phase of play as well, so we ended up scoring there. But that whole second half performance, you could feel the energy in the crowd in both of those games too. The crowd could sense the performance was there for the first time this season. Great atmosphere at the Arsenal game, great atmosphere in the Ghent game. We're going to try Gates again.
Third time lucky?
Hey! There you are, mate.
Oh, sweet.
You figured it out. There you are.
Well, I don't know whether it was because I'm on my phone and I don't know. I don't see why, but it would affect it. But
yeah,
it's either I've rebooted it and something's kicked in, or I had it on Do Not Disturb. But I wouldn't have thought Do Not Disturb would affect it.
Yeah. Anyway, all's well that ends well, Gatesy. You're here now. We can hear you.
That's it. All good.
Yeah. So basically, what I've been saying is that at previous times in the season there was talk of this corner turn that we're kind of going to kind of get going now, get motoring, and I never really believed it. But I think for the first time this season, after these 2 performances against Arsenal and Ghent, I'm starting to think that maybe now we are actually at a turning point in the season, and that I'm starting to think we might be seeing that now. I'm not willing to say we're definitely going to see this big upturn in form and results between now and the end of the season. But actually, for the first time this season, I'm kind of hopeful that might be the case.
Yes, I would understand that. If you take the 5-1 against Newcastle out of the equation, I think in our last half a dozen games, the results have been decent enough. Maybe not the performances. I mean, certainly the win against Southampton, the win against Fulham were, despite the fact that we got 3 points, were not great performances. They weren't particularly pleasing on the eye. But in the situation that we were in, it was all about getting the results. I don't for 1 minute think that relegation is an impossibility. I do think we need to be mindful of what's going on around us still. I mean, Southampton have just gone. That's why I was a little bit late. I was watching the game at the Emirates, and I mean, they've just picked up a point. All right, they could have had all 3, Southampton, but they've picked up a point. I personally don't think that's going to be enough for them. I think they're gone, but they've shown that they're still fighting, and there's plenty of other teams around there that are going to still show a little bit of character, I'm sure, in what remains of the season. Personally, I think that the teams that will go are very likely to be Southampton, Leicester, and Nottingham Forest. But I do think that we need to be a little bit careful and not get complacent. But I'm also a believer that wins and performances, it becomes a bit of a habit. Do you know what I mean? It's habit forming. And whether it's in the Conference League or whether it's in the Premier League, there's definitely a buzz. There's definitely a confidence. You can see it in the body language of the players on the pitch. There's a certain swagger about them that we haven't seen for probably about 18 months, I would suggest.
Yeah, and it was good to see. I mean, it's been desperately needed. I mean, 10 minutes into the game against Arsenal, you're thinking, "Oh Christ, this could get very, very bad."
Yeah.
And then I think our players did respond, but I also think Arsenal just completely relaxed, just started fucking about really with the ball, just tippy tappy bollocks, and they lost their sense of urgency and their drive. And we were able to take advantage of that. And I think once the momentum in a game swings like that, you can't just switch it back on. From an Arsenal perspective, once they relaxed and started thinking they had the game won already, and then we kind of took over, they just couldn't get it back. The rest of the game, we were the better team, and we just really got more and more confident. The performance, particularly second half against Arsenal, I thought was just superb. And we've kind of built on that momentum. I think that was the kind of game that the players really needed, where Moyes obviously would have sent them out with the same kind of tactics and the same mindset. But then when you're 2 goals down after 10 minutes, that's out the window very, very quickly. All of a sudden, whatever game plan you had, it's over. You just can't do that now because you're 2 down already. And so it kind of, the players were able to kind of throw the shackles off. And actually you have to come out and really go for it and try and get these goals back. And I think that change of mindset could be the thing that turns our season around. We kind of saw it again against Ghent. Unfortunately, again, had to go a goal down. Despite a bright start, we weren't able to maintain it. We didn't score, unfortunately, in that very early period. But then we kind of lost our momentum a little bit, and then Ghent came back into the game and started to mount some dangerous-looking attacks, and obviously went 1-0 up. And all of a sudden, we're kind of in this not as big a hole, but in a hole, and then in a bit of danger. And then, but once again, the players responded after being a goal down to coming out more attacking and threw the shackles off again. And I mean, the second half again was excellent, and we absolutely blew them out of the water. So the hope is, I guess, that the lesson there for Moyes and for the players is, let's not wait until we're 1 or 2 goals down before we decide to actually go out and attack teams after them, because we are actually a very good side when we're allowed to be, when the teams allow us to be, and when the mindset is right. And I think the big thing for me now is that they learn from this. I think the players want to play that way anyway. Some of them have alluded to it in interviews.
Yeah.
That we're much better when we're on the front foot and when we're getting after teams than when we're trying to be cautious and cagey. And the hope for me now is that Moyes will allow the players to actually do this from the first whistle on Sunday against Bournemouth, and just we're a better team than Bournemouth. You know, we just are. We've got better players in most positions, I would say. And so I hope Moyes just lets the players, just put some trust in the players. They've shown
Agreed.
these last two games that what they can do if he lets them do it. And I hope now on Sunday that he'll just take the shackles off, let them get after Bournemouth right from the first whistle, attack them, because I really believe we'll outscore them if Moyes allows them to do that. And my hope is that that's the corner that we might have turned, that we've turned it mentally, both Moyes and the players. So I know we still have to be cautious, but do you think that is the point now where maybe Moyes will just say, you know what, lads, I'm going to show a bit more trust in you, that you actually can go out and go toe-to-toe with a lot of these teams that we've got left to play and get something from those games?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why not. And again, I agree with you. We should be on paper a better starting 11, a better squad than Bournemouth. And I don't mean that to try and be disrespectful to Bournemouth, who I thought were dead and buried a month or two ago. Gary O'Neill has really galvanised them, their players, their supporters, and they play some lovely football. I've got to say that for a club that sort of their home ground, it holds what 10, 12,000, whatever. They really are punching above their weight just by being in the Premier League, quite frankly. So they're a really a great story in the Premier League. You know, this rags to this team of this league of glittering stars and teams that are run by countries and this, that, and the other, and oil barons. And then you've got this little club down on the Dorset coast, and they're defying the odds. But be that as it may, I have to sort of put my admiration of what they've achieved to one side. It's all about us getting 3 points on Sunday. And if we do that, what puts us on 34 points? Now, I still don't think that that's enough. I think we might need a couple more points, but that would be a huge stride towards us being relatively safe, I feel. We've got a lot of other games left where we can pick up points here and there. I'm looking at the games against Crystal Palace and Leeds primarily. But do you know what? I even look at the Manchester United game and the Liverpool game at London Stadium and think, do you know what? It's not beyond the realms of possibility that we might pick up something there, because Manchester United, since they've won the League Cup, have gone off the boil. And you look at obviously the result they got yesterday as proof of that. And Liverpool haven't travelled very well by and large this season. So I'm even looking at them games and thinking we can get something. But the only thing that kind of frustrates me as well, I mean, you mentioned about sort of has Moyes finally took the handbrake off? And if he has, great, that's fine. But why did it take 30 odd games into a Premier League season before the penny dropped with him? That's really quite frustrating.
I don't think it did. I don't think the penny did drop with him. I think the Arsenal game he set up the way he always does. I think that game it was kind of forced on us, you know, because of being 2-0 down. Going 2-0 down early to Arsenal could be the best thing that happens to us this season. And to be honest, I still think we probably would have survived. I do think there are certain teams now that look like they're in the mud and are really struggling badly. I think we probably would have stayed up anyway, just about, maybe in kind of 16th or 17th, something like that. But I think it was accidental. I don't think what happened against Arsenal was by design whatsoever. I think, again, as I said, I think it was just because 10 minutes in we were 2-0 down. And
do you think it was Moyes though? Because I've heard a theory put forward that when there was a bit of a conflab around the time of the penalty that Ben Rama converted, that a lot of people have made the observation that there was a bit of a conflab going on, and a lot of people have put the theory forwards that was that the moment where the players went bollocks to Moyes' tactics, we're going to do this.
It's very possible because there's absolutely no way Moyes sent them out to attack Arsenal. Absolutely no chance that was his message to them going out. I do think that game took on a life of its own, and the players basically did what was done against Arsenal. I think the players did that. I don't think that was anything to do with Moyes. I think it was just the situation that we were in. Like the tactics after 10 minutes were out the window. There's no point now being cagey and sitting back. We're 2-0 down. They're all over us. No, I think thankfully Arsenal helped us out a bit as well by relaxing the way they did. I think they invited us out really, and they just completely relaxed. Like they had the game won, and I think that encouraged us as well. And then I think it turned on a moment. I think it turned on the moment where Thomas Partey decides to try some. This is how relaxed Arsenal were, and how they had just gone. You know, their intensity was completely gone. They were too relaxed. They thought this was just going to be a training session, and so Thomas Partey summed it up, trying a silly little flick when Declan Rice was closing him down. Dick stole the ball off him, squared it to Paqueta, who won the penalty, and all of a sudden it's 2-1, and we're back in it, and our tails are up. They've relaxed, so now they can't, like I said, you can't switch it back on. You can't flick a switch and turn on your intensity like that all the time. Sometimes you lose the intensity and you lose the momentum, as Arsenal did.
Yeah.
You can't get it back. So our tails were up. We were back in it. And like you say, probably the players got around each other before the penalty was taken, geeing each other up, saying, come on now, you know, hopefully Benny will tuck this away. We're back in it. And now let's push on and see if we can get an equaliser. And the game turned on that. Arsenal helped us out, definitely. With their attitude was horrible, I thought, after they went 2-0 up. So I think the whole thing happened almost by accident. Like I said, the game took on a life of its own once we got that penalty tucked away by Benny. And that happens. I think there's often games, Gatesy, where the managers on the sideline are spectators just like everybody else in the stand. I think games take on a life of their own, and the managers probably can do very little about it. And I think that's what happened in the Arsenal game. And if that proves to be the turning point in our season, it's bloody good timing. Because while I think that we most likely would have survived anyway, I think it's more important for us in Europe. Because if we hit form now, and we keep playing the way we did against Arsenal and the way we did second half against Ghent, that momentum could very well carry us finally to a meaningful trophy. And that's the big thing for me. I think survival would have happened either way. I think survival is more likely now if we can keep this momentum going, obviously. But I think, let's say we get a couple of more good results. Let's say we go and turn Bournemouth over. Let's say we beat them away Sunday and we grab a point against Liverpool. I think that's us. I think we're good. I think there's enough games left in the season. We will absolutely pick up enough points to be safe. And Moyes will know that, and the players will know that. And then they can turn their minds kind of almost fully to trying to win that Conference League. So that's where I think it could be huge for us. This could be that Arsenal game where we won that penalty and converted it. Everything that happened since then could be the spark that sees us win the Conference League, and that's my hope.
Here's hoping. I mean, 43 years for a club of our size, and obviously we're not a Man United or a Liverpool or anything like that, but for a club of our size and the fact that we've got 62,000 every home game, pretty much, that's a long time. I mean, the last time we won a trophy, I was 4 years old. I'm pushing towards my 50s. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's absolutely bizarre. But no, I want to see us. I want to see us pick up a bit of silverware. I never wanted it when relegation was looming larger than it currently is, and the question was asked: Would you take a relegation if it meant winning the Conference League? I was like, absolutely not, absolutely not. Don't get me wrong, a piece of silverware, great, fantastic, but I just think relegation, absolutely, just I couldn't stomach the prospect. But now that's a bit further in the distance, and we're obviously now in the semi-final, so one tie away from making it to a showpiece final. And I know people of certain other clubs would look down their nose at the Conference League final and say, yeah, but it's a third-rate European But for a club of our size, we can't turn our nose up at that. I would absolutely snap your arm off for the Conference League trophy, mate. Absolutely snap your arm off for
I think
that moment of glory.
yeah, there's very, very, very few West Ham fans that would turn their nose up at winning the Conference League. That would be a massive thing, I think, for the vast majority of us. That would be huge. And not only do you win a meaningful trophy, and this whole thing about the Conference League is third rate and all this stuff. And I remember when the Europa League kind of came into being, a lot of people had that same attitude towards the Europa League. They really did. But now you look at the respect that the Europa League has. It is considered a very meaningful trophy. I'll guarantee you, those like Ten Hag and those United players are gutted that they got knocked out of that. Absolutely gutted. They would have been really wanting to win that tournament. And I think any teams that are dropping down from the Champions League don't turn their nose up at it. They really want to win it. It's a meaningful trophy. And I think in time, the Conference League will be more respected. Okay, it'll always be the third tier trophy in Europe, but I do believe it will grow in respect, especially if you've got, let's say, teams like Roma and ourselves, maybe going forward, like well-respected Spanish and Italian clubs, French clubs will win that tournament. German clubs will win that tournament. And people will look at the names, the winners' names on that trophy as those names grow and grow and grow season on season. And people will realize, look who's won that thing. Roma have won it. West Ham have won it. Say, Villarreal have won it. And teams like that, Fiorentina or Lazio or someone have won it. And, it will gain respect. I really believe that. And so I don't care if people will sniff at it. We won't sniff at it. I mean, that would be a fantastic achievement for us to win a European trophy. And of course, the bonus is it doesn't negate the horrible football and the performance that we've seen this season. But if we end the season in 14th, it kind of negates that position because we'll be in the Europa League next season.
Yeah.
Regardless of our 14th place. So it won't make up for a whole season in the Premier League, of course. We have to have played much better and to have seen better football and all that. But if we win the Conference League and we're in Europa next season, I tell you what, it bloody it takes a lot of the sting out of it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, you're saying about the respect or lack of respect, more to the point of the Conference League. I mean, look, we got to remember this is a tournament that's only in its second season of existence, and what it reminds me of, if anybody that's watching is something of a boxing fan, a follower of boxing, anyone that remembers in sort of like the late 80s when there was a world boxing authority that came into being called the World Boxing Organization, the WBO. In the very early days, their world title was very, very lightly regarded. It was seen as a bit of a nothing belt. The big three was the WBA, the WBC, and the IBF, and the WBO was very much an afterthought. It was like, oh, that's a nothing title. But then, as the years went on and more boxers of a certain level were going for the WBO title as a going concern, so Nigel Benn, Chris Eubank, Steve Collins, and then sort of like years later, you're having people that have the belt round their waist, the likes of Vladimir Klitschko having the WBO world title,
Yeah.
and now, if you have the WBO world title, it's now, oh yeah, no, that's a proper world title. That is, it's not regarded as some shit piece belt that just holds your trousers up or something. And that's where I think the Conference League is now. The Conference League, in footballing terms, is what the WBO belt was after about the first 2 years or so of its existence. No one gave a shit.
Yeah, it's a good analogy. And of course, the difference in boxing is that it's also a big deal to be undisputed, to have all the belts.
Oh yeah.
Not getting that, but yeah, it's still a valid, very valid point. And as I say, I think the vast majority of West Ham fans, I think even the fans, and amazingly, there are a few who turn their nose up at this. West Ham fans, I think if we go on and win it, I think they'll change their tune pretty quickly if
Yeah.
we're the champions. And like I say, if we win it, it will gain that respect from the first two winners. These are not small clubs. Roma and West Ham are not small clubs. We're very well known clubs. We're well respected clubs, particularly Roma, of course. Internationally. So that will certainly help. To add to the prestige of winning that cup, because you're adding your name to those names as a winner. But
Well, let's remember the first manager to win the Conference League, Jose Mourinho. I mean, this is not a manager that you look at and go has no real credentials to his name. This guy's won everything.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, you could see what it meant to him and his players. I mean, they were absolutely elated to win that trophy. The inaugural one, they're the very first name on it.
Yeah.
That's a great honor too. It has to be said.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they took it seriously. So yeah, I think. But anyway, regardless of what anyone thinks about it, I think as West Ham fans, we'd be absolutely thrilled. And we'll have that. I mean, we'll have that on Tottenham too. But they've still not won a fucking thing, and we're European champion. We're a European champion. So we can have that chant next season. European champion. You'll never sing that. But so that would be nice. But yeah, look, a piece of silverware would be amazing. Europa League qualification for next season and avoiding relegation. I suppose if we go back, actually, we'll talk maybe specifically about some games. We'll start with last night because I guess it's still really fresh in the memory. I don't know, were you there?
I was, yes.
You were there. Excellent. That must have felt absolutely fantastic, Gatesy. Another massive European occasion. Atmosphere amazing. Under the lights, it's always kind of special, isn't it? Under the lights, these occasions. And brilliant second half performance where we really just blew them away. And these nights are important, aren't they? It's another thing. Never about winning the trophy. Like, we didn't win the Europa League last season, but I don't think any of us will ever forget, Sevilla at home.
No.
Or any of the home games, really, whether it's, Sevilla, Lyon, Frankfurt, all great occasions. Obviously, away to Lyon, amazing night. But they're kind of important and worthwhile nights just in their own right, regardless of whether you go and win the trophy. They're special nights, and they're great memories for fans.
Well, you talk to anyone that's about the age of my father and maybe a bit older, and people talk about the game at Upton Park in the 76 Cup Winners' Cup run against Eintracht Frankfurt in the semi-final. Well, we didn't win that tournament. We got to the final, yes, but we lost against Anderlecht. But people still talk about that game at Upton Park as one of the great nights. In fact, a lot of people that were there would make the case that is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, home atmosphere that was ever had at the Bowling Ground.
Yeah, there's like I say, there's something. Sorry. For the fans. How you doing, Chewy? Yeah, it is a special thing, and like I say, we've been starved of it for a long time. And,
yeah,
and then imagine turning your nose up at that. Who do these fans think they are? You know what I mean? Like, poo-pooing those kind of occasions. I mean, they're very special, and long may they last. That's why I desperately hope that we can win this thing, not just because it's wonderful to have a trophy, and it will be, and that's the main thing, but it means we get more of this next season. We get 3 seasons in a row where fans can go on a midweek to watch us play in Europe, and We've been starved of it for a very long time. I think it's really special. And I don't care if it's Europa or Conference. I mean, the atmosphere in there must have been just fantastic, Gatesy.
Yeah, no, the atmosphere was really good. Obviously, when we went 1-0 down, that was a little bit of a, oh, this wasn't quite in the script. But I think we always felt that, no, we've got a goal in us. And it's just important that we make sure that when we get it, we haven't maybe conceded a second or a third, that we're sort of still in arm's reach. Because if we can sort of keep to sort of that sort of distance between us, we can come back against this team. You know, we should have the quality. These are Premier League players of a good standing. The vast majority of these players played in a European semi-final 12 months earlier. So why shouldn't we have the confidence on home soil to go out and take care of Ghent? And so it proved. Look, like I say, you can turn around and say, oh yeah, but we had to go a goal behind, which is true, and the same against Arsenal. But at the end of the day, it was about getting the result. And my goodness, did we get that? I mean, it's not like we fluked it. It's not like it was a dodgy penalty given by the referee or anything like that. We battered them, especially in the second half. I thought we was decent enough up to the goal. I was quite surprised. I was like, well, surprised. Maybe that's not quite right. The way our season's gone, maybe it didn't surprise me, but I didn't think that going 1-0 down was entirely deserved on the balance of play up to that point. But then obviously we got the equalising goal from Mickey, go in at 1-1, and I just seriously thought from that point on, there's only one winner here. The crowd were up for it. The atmosphere was cranked up under the lights, and whether you're Moyes in, whether you're Moyes out, whether you are a fan of this player, that player, the other player, the fans that were there on the night were galvanised, and they were fully behind the players on the pitch. They were vociferous, they were noisy. They were really giving the players the support, and another 3 goals after that in the second half. I mean, that goal from Declan Rice, oh my goodness.
What a goal.
What a goal. And people will, and I said this in our match review, people will make the accusation, yeah, but it's only a pissant tournament and it's against some shit team from Belgium. Look, Declan Rice can only score the goal against the team that is put in front of him. So let's deal with that. It was a great goal. It was great tenacity. It was great drive, determination, and a cool finish at the end of it from a player that maybe doesn't get the goals in the volume that Graham Souness and Roy Keane would say that he should. But I think maybe even they would have looked at that goal and gone, oh, okay, fair play.
Yeah, it was absolutely wonderful, and obviously you described it well enough there. You know, I don't have to kind of reiterate that, but you could see what it meant to him too. I mean,
Yeah,
like every time they cut to him, like to Declan Rice for like minutes afterwards, he just had this huge beaming smile on his face. He was interacting with his teammates, laughing with them. Don't know what they were saying, obviously, but you know they were obviously enjoying life at that point. And just say the confidence was high. They were feeling really great, and it was so good to see. Wonderful goal. He's just a special player, isn't he? He really is. And I know there's teams of a lot of other fan bases who say he's overrated and overpriced and all that, but they're wrong.
they said that about Jack Grealish.
Yeah.
And those people are now. You look at his performances for City this season, and even his most vociferous critic, when he went from Villa, even when he was at Villa, there were people that criticised his game. He then gets the move to Man City, 100 million quid. Look, he doesn't set the price. That was the release clause that Villa put in his deal that he signed. And if a club wants to come in and pay that, and then we can sit here and have the conversation. Do we think he's worth 100 million quid? Yes, no, whatever. But the bottom line is that Manchester City clearly thought he was worth 100 million. Villa thought he was worth 100 million, so the deal was done. Now you look at it, and he's blossoming. He's really showing his worth in a team full of superstars, and I believe he'll win another Premier League title this season. I don't think it's inconceivable that he might even get a Champions League winners medal and possibly an FA Cup winners medal. So might be one of the very few players in English football history to have a treble on his CV. Not bad. And I believe that Declan Rice will be the same. I believe that Declan Rice, when he goes, and I'm convinced it's when, not if, I'm convinced it will happen this summer. I believe that he will have similar detractors. I think there's already people out there. I've just mentioned two of them in Roy Keane and Graham Souness. People that will say he doesn't do enough, he doesn't score enough goals, he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. Give him a season or two at a top club. He will do what Jack Grealish is doing at the moment for City. You'll look at him down the track. It might take him a season to fully acclimatise, perhaps. I'd be expecting that. But I think when you looked at him down the track, you'd look and you'd go, oh no, he is in that calibre of player. He is as good as West Ham's price tag that they got suggested that he was. I really do believe that.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. There's no doubt in it. I mean, he's a special talent. We all know it, and he'll flourish at any team really at any level. We've already seen him do it for England, So, even against the best international teams, he looks comfortable and he looks like he belongs there. So I've got no doubts about that going forward. But it's funny you mentioned Grealish could win, Premier League, FA Cup, Champions League this season. Little interesting piece of trivia for you. If we go on and win the Conference League.
Oh, I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, Emerson will be the first player with a Champions League, Europa League and Conference League winners medal.
He will. I actually saw that post earlier today, and someone put in, it was on one of the ones, and they turned around and said, oh no, Pedro won the Conference League last season with, I went and checked, it was like, no, Pedro left a year earlier. He wasn't at Roma when they picked up the Conference League. So whoever put that was actually incorrect. Emerson would be the first player to be able to say, I have a winner's medal from all three current UEFA. The only player, obviously. I mean, Jose Mourinho as a manager has all three, but player, he'd be the first. And that'd be a nice little achievement, that the first player to have that hat trick completed that set, maybe not sort of started the first two, but got the third to complete the set as a West Ham player. That'd be quite nice.
Yeah, that'd be a little claim to fame for him, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But it just feels like we're finally getting a little bit of momentum at the moment. I think Sunday will tell us a lot. I really do.
Yes.
And because it doesn't get easier, the games are coming thick and fast. I mean, we're asking these players now to play 3 games in 6 days, with Bournemouth on Sunday and Liverpool on Wednesday night. It's tough going. So we'll see what happens. I'll still be a little cautious when it comes to the Premier League. Bournemouth are not mugs.
No.
Bournemouth are greater than the sum of their parts, shall we say?
Yes.
The way they're playing, and they got another tremendous result away to Tottenham, last weekend, and of course they don't have to play midweek games either, so they've been able to spend the entire interim just concentrating on how they want to approach this game against West Ham. And I think as well that Gary O'Neill's doing a tremendous job. I mean, if you remember, Scott Parker basically got himself sacked with his negativity, coming out and saying, well, we don't have a good enough team to stay up, and without the financial backing to go out and buy the players, I'm not how we're going to be able to stay in the Premier League. And the board, not surprisingly, thought, Jesus Christ, we can't have the manager dooming us early in the season with that kind of talk. The players are listening to that. Got rid of him. Give Gary O'Neill a chance, as interim, and I think he's done a tremendous job, because if you look at it, really, Bournemouth are a team at the start of the season, you were saying they're going to go straight back down.
Yeah.
With the team they've got, you wouldn't have given them too much hope. But I think Gary O'Neill has been able to squeeze every last ounce of performance out of that team. They're obviously very well coached. They all know what they're doing. They work very hard for each other. They've got some pace in the team, which they utilize very well. They play very well on the counter. They've had some excellent results. One at home to Liverpool, away at Tottenham, performances like that. So
Even the away game against Arsenal, I mean, they lost that game, but that was a game I thought they came out of that with tremendous credit. Even if they didn't get a single point on the board, you looked at it and went, my goodness, if they can replicate that performance for the rest of the season, they'll be all right. And
yeah.
so they've managed to do that by and large, because I think it was the very next game they beat Liverpool.
Yeah, they won the next game 1-0 home to Liverpool, yeah. And the thing is, I think they're fine now. I really do. Looking at the table, I don't think that the teams behind them, like in the relegation zone currently, are going to be able to do enough to catch them. Bournemouth will pick up more points. Probably not too many, but they'll pick up enough to get them over the threshold, I think. And that's why I'm a little bit wary about Sunday, because I think Gary O'Neill and his players will feel that if they can win this game and pick up another 3 points, that's it. They're home and hosed. And I think they're correct. I think if they beat us, they're home and hosed. They're absolutely not going down. I think that will be safety for them. So I think I'm a little wary about that fact. I think they'll be highly motivated to win this game, and kind of, which will basically, I think, confirm their safety and their place in the Premier League next season. So I think this is going to be a very difficult game. And of course,
do you think a point would be decent for both teams if it ended a draw?
I do, actually, yeah. And to be honest with you, I won't be surprised. Like if this game is like 0-0 or 1-1 or 2-2, if it's level with 20 minutes to go, don't be surprised if both managers and both sets of players just think, you know what, this will do. We'll take this. I think Bournemouth have got games against Southampton and Leicester coming up. Yeah, so they'll feel like they can grab some points there, and probably will. So I think both managers on Sunday would feel like a point is an okay result. It's another point closer to safety. I know Southampton got a point tonight, but I said that's of very little use to them. I still think they're going down. Like I say, Forest are in free fall. Leicester are all over the place. Everton are struggling. They all have difficult games. I think if you
Leeds are hemorrhaging goals.
Leeds are all over the place. So I think by virtue of that, I think ourselves and Bournemouth will both feel like we'll be okay. I think we'll be fine. I think Bournemouth will be fine. And I think a point apiece would be absolutely acceptable for both teams. I don't think that would be a bad point. I really don't.
No.
I think because the point we got against Arsenal, which we didn't expect to pick up, I think a point against Bournemouth is okay. It's another point towards safety. We still have some work to do, but I think if we have turned this corner and our performances improve, then I think 100% would be fine. What you don't want to happen now on the back of a really good week, or a few days, not even a week, on the back of a really good few days where we've put in a couple of very, very good performances, what you don't want to happen is to go to Bournemouth and lose 2-0 and play really poor. That would be kind of like, one step forward, two steps back kind of feeling, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, massively. I want to see the performance of the last two games replicated, a high energy, high confidence performance where we're going out to try and win the game, not to try and contain for 60-70 minutes and then try and sort of open up the afterburners at the last knockings of the game. It hasn't served us well for the vast bulk of this season, and I don't see any reason why it would be a good idea to utilize that tactic against a footballing team in Bournemouth Football Club. So let's try and go out there and meet them in the, as I say, meet them in the centre of the ring, to use another boxing analogy, and try and take their heads off.
Yeah, and fingers crossed now that we'll do that, and hopefully the confidence of the last couple of games, will stand to us on Sunday. I think Bournemouth are quite comfortable out of possession. They don't really play a possession-based game. They're very good on the counter. They've got some pacey players. They've got some very good players. I mean, Philip Billing is a cracking footballer.
He was at Huddersfield before, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was at Huddersfield, yeah.
Yeah,
Cracking player, Philip Billing. He certainly is a Premier League standard player. But I think they'll be quite happy. I don't think it'll be one of those games where we have 27% possession. I think possession will be far more even in this game. I think we'll have enough of the ball, and they'll try and keep things compact and then hit us on the counter when they do win possession back. So we'll have to make sure, I think, that when we've got the ball, that we're able to try and break them down, and it'll be up to David Moyes to come up with some way of doing that. Hopefully we can. But what's your gut feeling for Sunday? You confident now on the back of these last couple of performances, or are you still a bit cagey?
I've got more confidence than I had at 2-0 down against Arsenal after 10 minutes. I have to say, at that point, I think I was sort of really fearing the worst. But from that point onwards, I've got a reasonable amount of confidence. I do think that Bournemouth will be a massive test for us, and I agree with you. I think that if we went there and got a point, and that point was aligned with a performance that we looked at as fans and went, do you know what, we can be proud of that performance, and we've got a point that we come away from the Vitality Stadium, Dean Court in old money, then I'd be quite happy with that. Absolutely. I think that would be a point well won.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a difficult one as well, because, of course, we have to keep in mind that we do have these games coming thick and fast now. So we're talking about 3 games in 6 days. I mean, how would you approach this personnel-wise? I mean, obviously, we played full-strength team against Arsenal, full-strength team against Ghent. Now, there were some personnel changes, it must be said.
Yeah.
But not too many. But we have, I think, basically now everybody fit except for Scamacca. So do you think Moyes will switch it up much from Thursday night, or will he go back to Cresswell? I mean, I think centre-back you might see a change. Do you think he'll take Aguerd out and put Oggy or Kehrer back in? Will Cresswell go back in at left back, do you think? Or?
I think it will be Fab coming back in for Areola. I think that one's a given.
Yeah.
I think very likely Cresswell for Emerson. I think very likely Ogbonna for Aguerd. I don't think Kehrer comes in for Zuma, but you never know. I think Kufal will keep his place. He's been absolutely instrumental in the last month or so. He's been back to somewhere towards the Vladimir Kufal that we got from Slavia Prague, where everybody went, oh wow, £5 million. Where's this guy been hiding? Rice and Souček and Paquetá, I think will still be in the midfield department. I think.
Just before you move on, do you think those 3 will be okay for all 3 games in 6 days? You think that?
Yeah, I think as far as fitness is concerned, I don't think. I mean, whatever you want to level at Thomas Souček in terms of his limitations are concerned, the one thing that you got to say about the guy is he is super fit. He's
got an engine, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, actually, with those midfield 3. I think they've all got an engine.
Yeah, so I don't see any.
Yeah, I think Rice can do it, no problem. I think Paquetá can do it, no problem. I think Souček can do it, no problem. I think he can do all 3 games. I guess the question becomes the front 3. I suppose 2 are probably a given, but maybe Benny is under a little bit of threat from Cornet at this point.
Possibly. The only thing I would say about Cornet is that on the occasions that he's come on as a sub, he's had opportunities despite the fact he's had limited minutes on the pitch, he's had a couple of opportunities in that time, and he's fluffed his lines badly, really badly. So I don't know whether that might give Benny maybe a little bit of a not a stay of execution, because that sounds like he's sort of on borrowed time. But you know what I mean. I think that if Cornet had come in and maybe sort of took one of those opportunities that he's fluffed, then he obviously gets put under a little bit more pressure by Cornet as a result. But I think that probably you'll find that the front three will probably be Benny, Bowen, and Antonio. I think that possibly Moyes will look at it and go, yes, in an ideal world, I'd like to rest and rotate, but this is an important match against a team that cannot be taken lightly, and I think that I need to show them due respect by putting out a strong 11.
Yeah, I think it'll be a strong 11, even if he makes a couple of changes. But I agree. I think it'll certainly be Fabianski in goal. I agree with your back four generally. I think Aguero will come out. I think Aguero will probably play against Liverpool. But it'll be interesting to see if Oggy or Kehrer goes in, because I think actually Kehrer against Arsenal, I thought had a really good game. I thought he played really well in that game. I think he had one kind of blip early in the game. He gave away
a bit of a slip, wasn't there?
Yeah. But other than that, I thought Kehrer was really solid at centre back against Arsenal. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes with Kehrer or Oggy. I suspect he'll go with Oggy for the simple fact that Oggy's left-footed and is a left-sided centre back and kind of complements Zuma better. I'm not sure he'll want to have either Kehrer or Zuma as a left-sided centre back, so I think it will be Oggy over Kehrer. And I agree. I think Cresswell will probably be brought back in at left back.
Yeah, I reckon he'll rotate it for the Liverpool game. I think I could see it being, say, Cresswell, Oggy, Zuma, and Soufal as the back four against Bournemouth. But I could see in the Liverpool game him Moyes changing it for Emerson, Aguirre, Kehrer, and probably Soufal again. Again, with Soufal, I don't think there's any real issue with him playing, because I just think he's a machine. But I think that the other three, he very likely change.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a possibility also up front. I think for a change Sunday, depending on how Moyes is thinking, I think the smart money probably is on Antonio continuing up front. But you never know. He might think, you know what, I would rather have Antonio rested and fully fit for the Liverpool game midweek. He might decide to go with Danny Ings. He could even throw Cornet up top. You never know. He might throw a little one, kind of wobbler in there. So it'll be interesting to see. He does have options at least. He's got a strong bench there. So it'll be interesting to see which way he goes. I'll be interested to see. I think Cornet and Ings have got a shout potentially on Sunday. The only thing is Cornet did not look sharp whatsoever when he came on against Ghent.
No, he's had a couple of opportunities lately.
All over the place. I thought Cornet was really poor when he came on. So I don't know if that will affect Moyes' thinking, or if Moyes looked at it and thought, Jesus, he's really rusty. He needs minutes.
But then the only way that he shakes that rust off is to play. It's no good if he comes on with like 3 minutes of the game left. That's not going to be any use whatsoever. I'd be interested to see. I mean, is there any way of him getting some sort of behind closed doors game organised, or a game with the under 21s, or any way of him getting some sort of half competitive minutes, even if they're sort of like the Premier League is maybe sort of a little bit, because he was out for a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he can just come back into the squad and pick up where he left off. Yeah. I think he needs to be given a few games here and there in whichever level it is. I'd have no problem if David Moyes organised a game behind closed doors against, I don't know, Dagenham and Redbridge or something like that, and just had it as a behind closed doors friendly with under 21s, under 18s players. Obviously, we got the under 18s Youth Cup final, but so okay, do it as the under 21s and sling Maxwell Cornet in as an overage player to get some minutes under his belt.
Yeah, he desperately needs them. You could see how rusty he was when he came on
Massively.
against. He was really bad. I was actually quite surprised. Maybe I shouldn't have been, but I was quite surprised at how off it he was. So he desperately needs minutes. So, I mean, I think he'll get some at least against Bournemouth. He'll get more minutes against Bournemouth and probably get some against Liverpool as well. How many remains to be seen. But it'll be interesting to see how much rotation Moyes does. But like you, I think it'll be largely pretty much that team. Yeah, I think either way, I mean, it's still a strong side that's going out. I mean, I worry about Danny Ings. I feel like I thought he was okay when he came on against Ghent. He ran around a lot and did a couple of good things. Looked obviously quite sharp because he has had game time. But I just wonder now. I think with Antonio's form, I think he's back to being kind of impact sub at this point. Danny Ings. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes with Ings against Bournemouth. I don't know. I mean,
did he used to play for them? I know he played for Southampton, but did he play for Bournemouth way back in his career? Or have I got that wrong?
No, Burnley, I think it was, wasn't it?
I know he was at Burnley, but I don't know if he was. I'll tell you what, I'm going to have a quick look because I've just got this.
Recall if he was at Bournemouth. I don't remember him being at Bournemouth.
It might. I might be thinking of someone else, but I'm literally just checking. Yes, he was. He started his career there.
Oh, did he?
He was a youth player at AFC Bournemouth between 2008 and 2009. He had 2 years there as a pro, making 27 appearances. So, yes, he was at Bournemouth before he went to Burnley, then Liverpool, Southampton, Villa, West Ham. I thought there was something in the back of my head that I was like, I'm sure he's an ex-Burnley player.
Yeah, that's a good memory of that because Danny Youngs is not a young man anymore, and fair play that you remembered that far back that he was playing with them.
It just proves how old I am, mate.
I'm 47, so I'm right there with you, mate. So
I know, yeah, same age as me,
mate.
I
just remember it as my Danny Ings knowledge is limited. It has to be said.
I'm just a sad fucker then.
Yeah. You
Stato.
You need to get out there. That's
I do. You're right.
Watching too much football. But yeah.
Oh dear.
So obviously, looking forward in Europe, we got Alkmaar who turned things around against Anderlecht, which didn't surprise me, to be honest. I know Anderlecht are a limited side. I quite fancied Alkmaar might do that they might turn that tie around at home. I was surprised at the result in the first leg that they had. So obviously, I know very little again about Alkmaar. I think they're fourth in the league. I think in Holland,
something like that. Yeah.
So obviously a decent enough side. I think there'll be a bigger challenge than Ghent.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And this time around, of course, as well, we've got the home leg first. So we're going to have to really be at it in that first leg and get a really positive result to take over to Holland with us. But
not start like we did against Frankfurt in the last semi-final after 20 seconds.
No, we can't have any of that. What's your feeling on the Alkmaar game? I'm a little bit nervy about the Alkmaar game, I must be honest. I think they're a decent side, and I think they're going to cause us problems.
Well, they put out Lazio, I believe. Yeah, is that right?
They did. They knocked out Lazio, and
yeah. So,
but I'm a little bit worried about this one, I must say. Despite the really top class performance second half last night, I'm still worried about this Alkmaar game. I think they're going to cause us problems. We do look vulnerable at the back at times still. we can be quite open at the back at times, and they're a Dutch side. They're going to be technically good. How are you feeling about the Alkmaar game?
Look, with every stage that we progress in any competition, the opposition should, by rights, get more stern and a greater test. And I don't think that this will be any different. I do believe that AZ Alkmaar, with all due respect to Ghent, will be a slightly tougher challenge. But I believe that over 2 legs that we could potentially get past them and find ourselves in a final in Prague? Absolutely. Absolutely, I do.
Yeah, I think of course we're capable of it. If this upturn in form continues, particularly, and I think mentally the players can actually separate Premier League from the European competition. I think their mindset is completely different in Europe for some reason. I think they're very confident in what they can do in Europe. I think they always believe they can win those European games regardless of what's going on in the Premier League. But I feel like this is not going to be a 5-2 aggregate tie.
No.
I think this is going to be much closer. I think if we go through, it will very likely be by the odd goal.
Might even be pens. Who knows?
Yeah, it could be that tight. I think this is really going to be a game, over these 2 legs. The worry is the first leg at home. You don't want to be going over there tied, because their fans. When they're at home in that second leg, they'll create an atmosphere like we have in our second legs at home. Because the second leg is the one, right? You can recover from a bad night kind of away from home in the first leg. If you don't play great and you draw, or even if you lose by 1 goal away from home in the first leg, you always feel like you can get it back at home because you got the crowd there with you. Obviously, the atmosphere will be electric, and it kind of spurs the players on. So I think we have to take a positive. I think we need to go there with a lead. I think that would be really helpful psychologically. Their crowd will still get up for it, and they'll still come back at us, I think. But I think at least if we've got a lead, we've got something to work with. You do not want. I'd really not want to go over there with it tied.
Oh no, of course you'd always much rather go there with a victory under your belts. But then I cast my mind back. We drew at home in the first leg against Lyon, and then we went into their backyard and absolutely ripped them apart. Yeah. So, and a lot of the players that will be involved in the tie against Alkmaar will have been involved in that tie. So there will be people that have that experience that if, say, for argument's sake, we get, again, a 1-1 draw in the first leg against Alkmaar, okay, not the ideal scenario, not what you would pick if you was trying to sort of choose a scenario in which to take to the second leg away. But we've got players there that have been in that exact situation before and have managed to negotiate that particular hurdle. So if it happens, do I have confidence that we've got players that could go there and really sort of roll their sleeves up and show the character, resolve, determination and courage to be able to get the result to progress us to our first European final since 1965? Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I do. Despite my caution, I think you have to be cautious, obviously, in a semi-final. You're not going to be playing against a bunch of mugs. But I think we'll have enough about us over the 2 legs that we'll see them off, just about. What about the other semi? It's an interesting one. I mean, Fiorentina were in trouble for a while against Poznan last night. They kind of woke up just in time, as it were. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I didn't actually even have the game on because I thought, Fiorentina 4-1 up, from the first leg. They'll cruise through, no problem. And then you turn it over and it's like 2-0. And then Poznan score again, and you're like, Jesus Christ, it's level. And they're all level in the tie. And I'm talking,
crazy.
Fiorentina are in trouble here, but they saw them off in the end. They kind of came to life really in the last kind of 15 minutes, Fiorentina, and nicked a couple of goals. So, they're obviously in the semi-finals. They are playing who? Remind me.
Was it? I'm trying to remember. Was it Basel or was it Nice that won?
Basel, yeah. They're playing Basel in the semi-final. That would be an interesting one. Basel are experienced in Europe.
Yes. Yeah, I mean they've played in the top tournament in recent years. They've got the Premier League, Champions League experience in recent times. All right, they're not one of Europe's heavy hitters, but they're a decent enough team. I would make Fiorentina favourites though, but then again in that match against Poznan, they showed an awful lot of vulnerability.
Yeah.
So I think that they can be got at. So if we get past Alkmaar, whichever one of these teams we would face in the final, should it come to that, again, am I looking at either Basel or Fiorentina and going, oh, that could be just a hurdle too far? No, I think again, if we approach it the way we have done the last couple of games, I think there's none of the teams, Alkmaar, Fiorentina, or Basel, that I look at and fear. I really don't.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. Like I say, I think the Basel Fiorentina game will also be a really well contested semi-final. I think it'll be very, very close. Again, just maybe the odd goal, as you say, it could even go all the way to a shootout from 12 yards. So that would be an interesting one. I've got a sneaking suspicion for Basel. I think they're so experienced in Europe. I think, I don't know, I just feel like they might just have the wiles, you know what I mean, to see their way past Fiorentina. And obviously Fiorentina, very good side, could absolutely win that tie. But I just have a sneaking suspicion if we make the final that we might well be playing Basel. Like I say, they just have so much experience in Europe. And like they've played against Champions League teams in Europe regularly, and so they've played at that level. And I don't know. The way they got past Nice, I thought they showed their experience in that. I just have a sneaking suspicion that if we're going to make the final, we're going to have to beat Basel to win the cup. But it'll be two very interesting ties, and fingers crossed that things will go our way, and that we can keep these performances up. But we've got to stop going behind, in these games. You won't keep getting away with it.
No, but like I say, I think that the boys' confidence at the minute is, compared to where it's been for the vast majority of this season, the boys are in a really confident moment, and we need to push it for all it's worth, because it's not going to last forever. The feeling, the buzz, things are cyclical. So whilst we've got this advantage of the boys are going onto the pitch, and there's that little bit of an arrogance about them, do you know what I mean? Then I think we need to sort of push that edge for all it's worth, whilst we've got it in our favour.
Yeah, I think another thing actually that probably will help us is that I don't know if you remember the of course you do. You remember the 15-16 season.
I do.
We all do. It was an amazing season. It was the most enjoyable West Ham season in I can remember, I have to say. But that season, I remember, if we went 1-0 down, you almost shrugged your shoulders. You always like, oh, that's okay. We're going to still come. We're still going to win this game as fans. But the players were the same. The players, we would go 1-0 down. I mean, we even went 2-0 down at Goodison, remember, and came back and won it 3-2. Pyatt scored a late winner. And it was like, I remember watching that game live, and we were 2-0 down against Everton. And I remember in my head thinking, we're still gonna come back and win this game. We just had that self-belief that season. The players had that self-belief that even when they went a goal or even 2 goals down, they still had that. It didn't shake them whatsoever. Didn't shake their confidence whatsoever. Those players still felt like we're all right, we're okay. Yeah. We can still come back and win this, and they would.
I think we was 2-0 down against Arsenal as well in the game at the Bowling Ground. I think we went 2-0 down. Andy Carroll then hits the goals 1, 2, 3, and then they pull back an equaliser and we draw the game 3-3. But again, That was
I'm
another
saying
example.
it kind of, the Arsenal game and the Ghent game felt that way. It felt the same as those games in 15-16 season, where the players, we went 2 goals down against Arsenal, and it was like the players kind of still believed they could get themselves back in it, that they didn't feel like the game was over. And that was the first time this season I kind of felt that, because you remember what happened. We went 2-0 down against Newcastle. We saw what happened there, went 2-0 down, against Brighton, and that we fell to pieces in that one. But with the Arsenal game and the Ghent game, it felt like the 15-16 season where the players actually, I think, believe now, where if they go a goal down, they still feel like we'd be all right. We still know we can come back and get something out of this game, and that could be very important, going forward for the rest of the season. And if the worst comes to the worst, on Sunday we go a goal down against Bournemouth, I won't be as worried as I have been the rest of the season. I won't be thinking, "Oh, here we go, going to lose away from home again." I'll actually be thinking, "All right, I'm not going to worry here too much. Let's see if the players will respond again." Like we had the last couple of games, and I think the players probably will respond. I think they're in that mindset now where I think the confidence is growing now.
Yeah, like I say, I think that it's a good moment for the team. It's a good moment for the fans. Yes, it's only been a couple of games, and let's be honest, our expectations at the beginning of this season were a lot loftier than going to Bournemouth with 8 games of the Premier League season to go in some sort of relegation 6-pointer potentially. I think if you'd have said that to me at the beginning of the season, Tom, I'd have gone, "Oh, fuck off. I want a little bit more than that from a team that's finished 6th, 7th European semi-final and have then spent 180 million quid in the summer." But we are where we are. We're not where we want to be. But against the context of the season that we've had, which by and large has been disappointing, and whatever happens this season in the Premier League, I won't change my mind. It has been a disappointment. But hopefully we can finish the season in the right way. And as I say, if we can finish, I don't know, 13th, something like that, which I don't think is inconceivable, 13th, 12th, something like that, and bring home a European Conference trophy to boot, it's probably not been a bad season. It's not been disastrous, that's for sure. At one point, I did think it might be.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a disastrous season. Certainly, I mean, to win the conference, have that trophy would be a massive lift. That would certainly cheer us all up and would make up for some of the dross we've had to watch this season. But like I say, at the beginning of the season, if you'd have offered West Ham fans, say 14th or 15th in the league and winning the conference, I think I would have taken it 100%. I think most fans would take it. Well, I say it doesn't completely erase the season. We have been genuinely awful for a lot of it, like really, really poor. But I think it would at least, like I say, take the edge off how poor the Premier League season has been.
Yeah.
We can kind of maybe go forward from there, hopefully next season in the Europa League as well. So a third successive season, as I say, in Europe would be amazing and very welcome. And probably under a new manager, we expect. Hopefully a younger, more progressive manager. But so before we kind of wrap it up for the night, going to hold your feet to the fire as always, Gatesy. What's your expectations for Sunday, and what's the score going to be?
I think it's going to be 2 teams going for it. I think it's going to be 2 teams that are going to have a go at each other. They're going to do some damage to each other. But I think that it's going to be 2 evenly matched teams over the course of a 90-minute match. I actually think this is going to be a draw, Tom. I think it's going to be a Desmond 2-2.
2-2, interesting. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think our lads will be up for it. I think the confidence levels are certainly higher than they have been all season. I'm expecting, hopefully, a good performance. But equally on the Bournemouth side, I think they know that a win pretty much makes them safe. so that they'll be really trying to take the 3 points. They're a good side at home. They're not easy to beat, and they've got a bit about them, and they'll be tough. They'll be a tough opponent. But like you, I think the spoils will be shared. I think probably 1-1, something like that. So I'll go for 1-1. But I agree that I think it'll be a draw. I think it'll be a decent game, and it'll be a decent point. I do think a point away at Bournemouth is a decent point. I think it's not an easy place to go, and I think
No.
every team has found that this season. I don't think anyone's gone there and had an easy night against them there. There might be the odd exception. I don't remember all their results at home, obviously, but in general, this season, they've been a tough proposition at home at the Vitality Stadium. They've got a really great fan base there, very passionate, and they'll make a lot of noise and get behind them. And like I say, they'll go all out for the 3 points, knowing that's them safe, basically. Not mathematically, of course, but realistically, that's them safe. So they'll be looking to win. Obviously, they're on a high too. Great result away at Tottenham last week. They're very confident. They're a well-coached team, and they know what they're doing. So I think a creditable draw on Sunday, and I'll be okay with that. I think that would be good for us. Looking at the other fixtures, there might be some surprises, but you would think, looking at the other fixtures, a draw would at the very least keep us on par with where we are at the moment. I wouldn't do us any damage. If everything goes perfectly for us in those results, it could be a very useful point. Our relegation rivals have got some tough games this weekend, and I think a lot of them will lose. Yeah, I mean, look, we're not going to talk, obviously, for a little while. So Wednesday, obviously, a much more difficult tie. Home to Liverpool, who were showing signs of life, as it were.
Excuse me.
No problem. Obviously, they destroyed Leeds, Elland Road. A much tougher game. But again, if we get a positive result and a good performance, at Bournemouth, I mean, if we were to go and win there, obviously, confidence would be really high. I think even a point there, creditable draw in a good performance, our tails will still be up. Very difficult game, though. Do you think we can get something from the Liverpool game? I mean, they haven't travelled as well this season.
No.
Despite the Leeds result, but I think Leeds, as always, are just wide open defensively. So
what was it? 11 goals in 2 home games, wasn't it?
Yeah, Leeds are a team that are always in danger of getting tonked like that.
Yeah,
that's going to happen a number of times to Leeds over a season, just because of the way they play. They're always vulnerable to that, especially against a team like Liverpool, who, if they click on the night, can do that to you. But how do you see that one going?
Again, I have a reasonable confidence that we've got the capability to get something out of the game. Whether it's a win or a draw, I don't know. I'll probably have to sort of watch the Bournemouth performance before I'd make any sort of prediction on that. So I'm not going to predict any scoreline or anything like that until I've seen the Bournemouth game and I can make a more informed prediction. But right here, right now, I think that it's not beyond us to get all 3 points at all. Because Liverpool, as you've said there, away from home this season in the Premier League, by and large, have not been very impressive at all. Yes, they got the win, and a very good win it was against Leeds United. But let's be completely honest, Leeds have been all over the place defensively for quite a long time. And like I say, Palace put 5 past them the week before. So I don't really sort of look at the Liverpool and see that that's a team that we should really have too much to fear. And let's have it right. Not so long ago, a much better version of Liverpool rocked up to the London Stadium with an atmosphere, crowd behind them. The West Ham had the fans behind them, and we come away with a 3-2 win. So why can't it happen again?
Yeah, it's the beauty of the Premier League, is that all things are possible. We saw it tonight. I mean, bottom of the table against top of the table. Southampton had a 2-0 lead and a 3-1 lead. Okay, they kind of threw it away. Arsenal rallied and got it back to 3-3. But that's the Premier League. No one is safe in any game. Anything can happen. So, yeah, it's entirely possible. I mean, I think if we were to have the perfect kind of week, shall we say, perfect 6 days and get 3 wins, I think that would just be perfect. It would be fantastic. It would mean we're absolutely at that point safe in the Premier League, in a European semi-final, and in a position where we could actually begin to do a little bit of rotation in the Premier League and kind of put all of our eggs into the kind of Conference League basket. That would be the ideal situation. But like I say, if we could get, I think even 2 points would be okay, to be honest, Gatesy.
Yeah.
I think if we pick up a point against Bournemouth, pick up a point against Liverpool, I think given, like I said, what the teams behind us are not doing, I think that would be very useful points.
Be 33 points if it was 2 draws, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and you're very close then to the points tally that's enough to keep you up. We just have to hope those bloody teams like kind of Everton and Forest and Southampton, Leicester don't start to rally. Possibly one of them might rally, but I think the odds of 4 of them rallying is very unlikely.
Yeah.
So I think we'll be okay if we can just keep picking up points here and there. I think we'll be able to see ourselves over the line and, like I say, concentrate on trying to win that cup. So fingers crossed. But I think these last few days have given us much more reason for some optimism for the remainder of the season. So let's hope we can finish with a flourish.
Absolutely. As was it Ian Jury and the Blockhead said, reasons to be cheerful.
Yes, exactly. We'll take what we can get. We need them. We haven't had much of it this season, so
no.
Fingers crossed that
you had a full head of hair at the beginning of the season. Look at you now. It's all fell out with all the worry of West Ham, and he had long hair at the beginning of the season. People,
yeah,
honestly,
I started this season with a magnificent mullet.
It was like a perm.
I had like the Kevin Keegan perm. I was like,
now look at him.
Absolutely magnificent. Look at me now.
He's only 21.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, thanks, Gatesy, for joining me. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
Always enjoy having a good chinwag with you about West Ham. As always, thanks to everyone in the live chat, apart from Claret and Booze, who's well late. I've been on since 10 o'clock. Is that Nick? Is that Nick? Yeah, he's just woke up. Look, he's had a nap. He's getting old as well.
Oh, bless him. Did he get his pipe and slippers out? Has he got his sort of mugaholics?
That's it, yeah, and his Werther's Originals. But to everybody else, thanks for joining us in the live chat, and appreciate you being here, obviously, and hopefully you'll all be able to join me again next Friday for another chinwag. Hopefully, to talk about another couple of really positive performances and results. We keep this momentum going and let's finish this season strong. See if we can't get ourselves a bit of silverware. So until that time comes,